Hi, this is JR, and this is freedom as distinct from centralized tyranny or centralized decision making. It doesn't have to be tyranny, really. That's just a dramatic word that I'm using because it might be familiar to you, and you might be thinking of tyranny as something that happens in the Soviet Union or did in the past, or happens in certain far off places and times, or perhaps not so far off places and times. But tyranny is certainly a dramatic word. So personal economic freedom, meaning choice, like prosperity that allows people to have a number of choices and a lot of favorable choices, as distinct from centralized decision making where people will pretty much inherit the choices made by distant politicians and bureaucrats and so on. Distant authorities, remote authorities, whether that's all the way, 5,000 miles away in Rome or 600 miles away in the capital of the state or 40 miles away in the county seat or whatever it may be. So, option one, describe some problem in the world as dictated by the default cultural filter of the already always listening of what is wrong with the world today. In other words, just any inherited, shared perspective or perception or conclusion of what is wrong with the world today. So that's one thing we can do, is describe some problem of what's wrong with the world today, and then propose a speculative solution. And these vary, like, the Republicans or the Democrats or the Libertarians or whoever, the Arabs or the Christians or the women or the men, whatever, all the different groups with their different perspectives may have different solutions, but you may find that there's this certain amount of unanimity or consistency as to what the problem with the world is, and then this big range of solutions. But whatever it is, some solution that could fix the world's problem if only the world would cooperate with me or you or us. So that's option one. Describe the problem with the world as inherited from some other perspective that isn't original with me or you. And then propose a speculative solution based on some model of how the world could be fixed if only the rest of the world would cooperate. And then finally, exhaust yourself complaining about how the rest of the world it's not cooperating with me, and it really should be, and if they would just be smarter, then everything would be fine. That's option one. Option two, do something else. As in, start from nothing or clarity and recognize what you value or what I value as a priority and declare it, like freedom. And declare it to actual other people. And then promote some alternative actions, actual actions that provide a variety of results. And promote those actions as opportunities that fit with certain possible perspectives in terms of the possibility of freedom, perhaps. And then fit also with certain probable outcomes, like accumulating personal economic freedom, like accumulating prosperity, like accumulating discretion and choice. So there's the distinction, centralized decision making versus personal economic freedom. So maybe you've noticed that some people are focusing on accumulating prosperity and personal economic freedom, while many others are focusing on centralized authorities and their centralized decision making. It could be fixing the decisions that those authorities have made. It could be opposing them or preventing them from messing things up. It could be correcting them, educating the masses, saving the masses from ignorance, these kinds of things. And those are all things that I've done, and some of them at least may be things that you've done, and we may continue to do some of them. That's not even really the issue, but focusing on accumulating prosperity, focusing on cultivating personal economic freedom, these are also possible. And as far as what one does with one's time, with one's attention, there is freedom and choice in the matter of how to focus. Focus on fixing what's wrong or focus on cultivating what's possible and favorable. So in other words, some people are investing attention towards personal freedom, and some others are investing attention towards dependency and bailouts and rescue and reform and being right and doing the right thing also. What my grandmother called being a do-gooder, which the other idea there is looking good, like doing the thing that people should do and looking good. But that goes along with dependency on these centralized economic authorities making the right choice ongoingly, right? That's distinct, really distinct from personal economic freedom, where I'm responsible for the outcomes I produce rather than abdicating responsibility or towards distant remote authorities or declaring that those people are responsible, not me. So that's kind of projecting or rejecting responsibility. All right. So, are you committed to personal freedom? Like including for yourself, personally? If so, are you organizing your finances around and your financial choices around cultivating personal economic freedom, such that you personally benefit from the three most obvious economic issues of our time, the three biggest changes? Changing prices of fuel, changing prices of real estate investments, and changing prices of stocks. Someone is benefiting from these changes, right? Fuel prices change. Someone's benefiting from that. In the early 20th century, the Texans benefited from all the oil. Then the Soviet Union, then the Saudis, and other exporters of oil, whether it was the U.S. or Soviet or the other producers of oil, whether that was the U.S. as the number one country producing oil from the 1800s into the from the discovery of oil in the latter part of the 1800s to about 1970. Then the early 1970s, the Soviet Union was the number one producer of oil, and in recent years, Saudi Arabia becomes the number one producer of oil, with the Soviet Union or former Soviet Union now number two, and the U.S. now number three. So some people are benefiting from rising fuel prices. Some people are benefiting from changing real estate prices, just as people benefited from rising real estate prices in various localities and times. People are benefiting from changes in other localities having rising real estate prices, as well as the decline in real estate prices. There are parties, for instance, realtors aren't benefiting most, right? But bankruptcy and foreclosure lawyers that are involved with foreclosure proceedings or bankruptcy proceedings, well, they're getting a lot of business, or some of them are. So changing prices of stocks, again, various companies are going up in value, various companies in various places, stock prices are going down. Japanese stock markets are down 75% from 21 years ago. U.S. stock markets are down a little bit from 10 or 11 years ago, but not a whole lot, except in the case of the financial sector or the high tech sector like Microsoft and Cisco, Intel. Many companies are down quite a bit from where they were 10 or 11 years ago, but not all. And then you have places like Mexico, which for 20 years has had consistently big gains in their stock market prices. So someone is benefiting from these various changes, this redistribution of economic freedom, of economic capacity. Someone's benefiting, someone has positioned themselves to partner with these changes, to be more prosperous from these changes, these emerging developments, and thus accumulate more personal economic freedom and financial security. But how about you and I? Are we benefiting from these recent major shifts, which many analysts, including myself, detailed clearly before those trends shifted, before fuel prices really went up, before real estate prices even started to go down, before stock market prices in the U.S. at least in the financial sector went down, before real estate prices went down. So many analysts, I could name quite a few, from 2002 when I first researched it to all of the various publications that I've made, 2003 and since then, lots of warnings, alerts as to the risks and the opportunities, and few, very few, avail themselves of what's available, of what's possible, setting aside ideas and attachment to how things should be, and focusing on what's possible, what's actually happening, what's working, and what's possible, what's the opportunity present, rather than what remedies and rescues and solutions to the alleged problems are available. What, arguing over which method to fix the problem. Well, there are certainly problems or issues, right? It's for many people, it could be considered a problem that real estate prices are coming down. For instance, people who own homes, and for other people, real estate prices coming down make it more affordable to buy a home. If you don't already own a home and real estate prices come down, it's not really a big problem necessarily for you, unless you're like a construction industry professional. Then it may also be a problem, right? But it varies. These are just changes. Some people experience a particular change as a problem. Some people as an emergency. Some people as a, opportunity. So, are we benefiting from changes? Are we partnering with the changes to accumulate more personal economic freedom and financial security? Are we benefiting from these recent major shifts, or are we still just describing how the obvious solution, or allegedly obvious solution to my problem with the world, is just a simple adjustment by all the rest of the world to fit my model of how the rest of the world should be, already and always? We might call that suffering. So have we ever heard of the benefit of riding a horse in the direction it's already going? In contrast, struggling to ride a horse in the direction it allegedly should be going, but obviously is not going, may produce surprisingly unfavorable results. Suffering is an entirely optional thing in the sense of a model of relating with the world to make the world, in terms of what's actually happening, into my personal problem that I am out to fix. So I judge the world as wrong. I'm right, the world's wrong, and then I have this, burden or whatever of fixing the world. I'm going to keep my model of how it should be, and I'm going to go out and fix the world, and I just need the rest of the world to cooperate with me, and then the world can be fine for the world, by which I mean me. So, ride a horse in the direction it's going, or struggle to ride a horse in the direction it should be going but isn't. And of course, with regard to a horse and a horse rider, a jockey or whatever, we can adjust typically the direction that a horse is going. But how about something a little different from a horse? How about a river? How about the rapids of a river? You're going to try and adjust your boat, your craft, your canoe, or are you going to try and adjust the river? Not that humans don't adjust the course of rivers sometimes, but we get into bigger scales. We talk about economic trends. there's not much adjustment for me to make as far as changing, like that Saudi Arabia has a lot of oil under it. It's pretty much just how it is. That's for me to deal with or not. So humanity is shifting. Are you focusing on old models of what should be or should not be? Or are you focusing on the emerging possibilities available now, on what's working and what the opportunity is if what's working continues to work? Or are you focusing on how what used to work isn't now and should be, and how to fix the world to make it so my old model is going to work again one day, maybe, someday? So if you've been focusing on how to get the masses or get the leaders to do the right thing, like what they should do according to your old inherited models of how the world should be, consider this. How's that going for you? There's a link to my website, thedominoileffect.com, and also a link to my blog, jrfibonacci.wordpress.com, and also my phone number for those who would like to just give me a call and speak with me. You can reply, send me an electronic message by text, by email, by Facebook if you have that info. I look forward to partnering with you in regard to cultivating personal economic freedom, if that's something that is of interest to you. Thanks for your interest.